This is for the ones who can't stop second-guessing themselves. Not just decisions. Not just directions. The deeper kind, the questioning that goes all the way down to the root. Am I reading this right? Am I hearing God or just myself? Is this faith or just fear wearing a different costume? The kind of questioning that used to last a moment and now lasts for days. You've been living inside a question you can't seem to answer. And the question has started to feel like your permanent address. Stay here. The clarity you've been looking for might not arrive the way you're expecting. But something true is about to reach you. There's a specific kind of exhaustion that comes from living inside your own head too long. Not overthinking in the casual sense, not the kind you fix with a walk or a good night's sleep. The deeper kind. The kind where you've questioned a single decision so many times it has lost all shape, where you've second-guessed a feeling until it dissolved, where you've gone back and forth so many times between two options that you can no longer remember why either one mattered. And it's not just the decisions. It's the questioning underneath the questioning. Why do I always do this? Why can't I just trust? Why does everyone else seem to move through their lives with a clarity I can't locate in myself? What is wrong with me that I can't just know? And here is where it gets particularly painful. Because it's not just practical doubt. It's spiritual doubt. And spiritual doubt has a way of compounding itself. You question your decision, and then you question whether you heard God correctly about the decision, and then you question whether you've ever really heard God, and then you question whether anything you've believed about your own faith has been accurate. One question becomes a door. Behind it, another door. And another. Until you're standing in a hallway of unanswered things, not sure which direction leads back to solid ground. You've prayed for clarity. Multiple times. With increasing urgency. And the clarity hasn't arrived, or it arrived and you second-guessed it, which feels worse somehow, because it suggests the problem isn't the silence. The problem might be you. That thought, quiet, persistent, devastating, has been living underneath everything else. What if I'm the one who can't hear? What if I'm the one who's off? What if everyone else has access to a frequency I've somehow lost, or never had? And the longer the question stays unanswered, the more it expands. Until it's not just a question about a decision. It's a question about who you are. And that is the one that keeps you awake. Not the uncertainty about what to do. The uncertainty about whether you can trust the person doing the doing. Here is what nobody tells you about the why me question. It is almost always the wrong question. Not because it doesn't matter. Not because the pain underneath it isn't real. But because why me is searching for an explanation, and what you actually need is not an explanation. You need a foundation. Something beneath the questioning that doesn't move when the questions do. Something that holds when your confidence in your own perception collapses. Something that is true about you that does not depend on your ability to figure yourself out. And that something exists. Isaiah 41 verse 13, spoken directly, personally, with the specificity of someone addressing a single person in a crowd. For I am the Lord your God who takes hold of your right hand and says to you, do not fear, I will help you. Takes hold. Not waits for you to find stable ground and then shakes hands. Not offers support from a careful distance. Takes hold, actively, initiatively, in the middle of the shaking, and holds. The hand that takes hold of yours is not confused by your confusion. It is not destabilized by your self-doubt. It does not loosen its grip when you question whether you deserve to be held. It does not require your clarity to maintain its certainty. It holds because it chooses to. Because the holding is not contingent on your steadiness. You are being held by someone who has never second-guessed you. Not once. Not when you questioned the decision. Not when you questioned the questioning. Not in the hallway of unanswered doors. He has always known exactly who you are. And he has never loosened his grip. There is a woman in the Bible who had been questioned her entire life. Not by herself, by everyone around her. Her community. Her history. The number of marriages that had accumulated behind her name like a verdict. She came to the well in the middle of the day, not in the morning, when the other women came, because the middle of the day was when the well was empty. When she wouldn't have to feel the weight of eyes that had already decided what kind of person she was. She had internalized their verdict. You can tell by how she moves through the conversation with Jesus. Careful. Deflecting. Changing the subject when it gets too close to the thing she doesn't want named. Answering questions with questions. Keeping a careful distance between the surface of the conversation and the reality underneath it. She had gotten very good at managing the gap. And Jesus, who already knew everything, who saw through every deflection before she made it, didn't lead with the knowing. Didn't open with her history or her failures or the complicated trail of her life. He opened with a request. Will you give me a drink? He needed something from her. He addressed her as someone with something to offer. In a culture that had decided she had nothing worth offering, he asked. And then he saw her. Not the verdict. Not the history. Not the accumulated weight of everyone else's assessment. Her. And when he named what he knew, quietly, without condemnation, without the tone of someone who had been waiting to expose her, she didn't run. She ran toward the city. The same woman who came to the well alone to avoid being seen, ran toward the people she'd been hiding from and said, "Come see a man who told me everything I ever did." Not despite being fully known. Because of it. She had been questioning herself her entire life, measuring herself against the verdict of her history, her community, her failures. And in a single conversation at a well she wasn't supposed to be at, with a person she wasn't supposed to be talking to, she discovered something that dismantled the entire questioning. Being fully known and still chosen is the only thing that actually answers why me. Not an explanation. Not a reason. A presence. You don't have to imagine what it feels like to have lived inside other people's assessments of you for so long that you've started to agree with them. You already know what it is to come to the question of who you are and find someone else's verdict waiting there instead of your own. Jesus did not agree with the verdict. He never did. And he is at the well again today, asking for something, seeing everything, choosing anyway. Here is what chronic self-questioning does that nobody names. It makes you a worse judge of yourself the longer it goes on. Not because your instincts are broken, but because self-doubt, sustained over time, begins to consume the very faculties you need to evaluate yourself accurately. You question your perception, and then you can't trust your perception of the questioning. You question your hearing of God, and then you can't trust your sense of whether the silence is divine or self-made. The instrument you're using to measure yourself has been compromised by the measuring. The Samaritan woman had been assessed so many times by so many people that she had lost the ability to see herself outside of those assessments. She came to the well already pre-interpreted, already concluded, already carrying a verdict that felt more reliable than anything her own interior could produce. And Jesus offered her something more reliable than self-assessment. He offered her being known. There is a fundamental difference between understanding yourself and being known by someone who understands you completely. Self-understanding is limited by the very self doing the understanding. But being known, being fully seen by a gaze that is not clouded by insecurity or pride or the accumulated distortion of lived experience, that is a different category entirely. The clarity you've been trying to find inside the questioning is not available inside the questioning. It is available in being known. And you are known, completely, accurately, without the distortions you apply to yourself, by the one who has never once agreed with the worst thing you've believed about yourself. Start there. Let's slow down. Not to silence the questioning. You've been trying to silence it, and silence only makes it louder. Just to step outside it for a moment. To be somewhere the question doesn't have jurisdiction. Begin with your breath. Inhale, and notice that the breathing happens without your evaluation of it. Your lungs don't ask, "Am I doing this right?" They just breathe. Let that be the first small evidence that not everything requires your constant oversight. Some things are being held without your help. Exhale, and release, just for this breath, the need to arrive at a conclusion about yourself. You don't have to have yourself figured out right now. You don't have to know if you heard correctly, decided well, believed accurately. Just breathe. Just be here. Just let the question rest for 30 seconds without demanding an answer. You are allowed to not know, and still be okay. Paul wrote these words not from certainty but from a position of radical reorientation. Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, the new creation has come, the old has gone, the new is here. 2 Corinthians 5 verse 17. The new is here. Not the new you have to build through better self-understanding. Not the new you construct through resolving all your questions about yourself. The new that is declared over you, about you, regardless of your current relationship with your own clarity. You are not the sum of your self-doubt. You are not the accumulation of every question you couldn't answer about yourself. You are new. And newness, real newness, is not something you figure out. It is something you receive. Close your eyes if you can, and bring the questioning. All of it. Every loop, every second guess, every why me that has been sitting at the back of your throat since this started. Don't try to organize it into a proper prayer first. Just bring the noise. This is the one place it doesn't have to become clarity before it's welcome. I don't know how to trust myself anymore, and I'm not sure I ever did. I've been going back and forth inside my own head for so long that I've lost the thread of what I actually think, feel, believe. Every decision looks questionable from the inside. Every direction I choose, I immediately begin to doubt. Every time I think I've heard you, a second voice arrives right behind the first one asking if it was really you or just what I wanted to hear. I'm exhausted by my own mind. And I'm scared that this is just who I am. God, why me? Why this particular combination of overthinking and self-doubt and inability to land somewhere and stay? Why does everyone around me seem to have a clarity I can't locate? What did I miss that they have? What is broken in me that keeps me spinning in the same loops, questioning the same questions, arriving at the same doorway of uncertainty every time I try to move forward? I'm not asking for pity. I'm asking for an answer. Or, if not an answer, something more reliable than my own assessment of myself to stand on. Because here is what I keep coming back to. Underneath all the questioning, underneath the loops and the second-guessing and the why me, I am still here, talking to you. Which means something in me still believes that you know something about me that I don't. That your read on who I am is more accurate than mine. That the verdict you carry about me, the one formed before I existed, before the self-doubt accumulated, before the questioning became the weather I live in, is truer than anything I've concluded about myself in my worst moments. I'm choosing to believe that today. Barely. Imperfectly. But choosing. God, take hold of my right hand. Not when I've sorted myself out. Not when the questioning has quieted and I've arrived at some version of myself I'm confident in. In this. In the shaking and the spinning and the not knowing. Tell me who I am from your vantage point. Not the verdict I've inherited from my history. Not the assessment I've constructed from my failures. The one you've held since before any of this began. Let me hear it. Even slightly. Even one sentence I can carry into the rest of today. I am at the well. I am not running. Tell me everything you see. Amen. Soft pause. 4 full seconds. The silence of someone who has stopped arguing with themselves and opened their hands. You came here inside a question you couldn't answer. Why me? And here is what is true, not as a resolution, not as the closing of the question, but as something more durable than an answer. The woman at the well didn't leave with her questions answered. She left with something better. She left having been seen, completely, accurately, without flinching, and chosen anyway. And that being seen was so disorienting, so contrary to every verdict she'd carried, that it didn't produce more questions. It produced movement. She ran toward the very people she'd been hiding from. Not because she'd figured herself out. Because someone had seen her all the way through and not looked away. That is what happened here today. You brought the questioning, the real version, the exhausting version, the version that has been running on repeat for longer than you want to admit. You didn't perform certainty you don't have. You didn't arrive with the edited version. And you were not looked away from. The clarity you've been searching for may not come all at once. Self-doubt doesn't resolve in a single prayer. It releases in layers, over time, as the truth of being known gradually replaces the distortions of self-assessment. But something shifted today. Come back tomorrow. Not to find more answers. Just to be known again. To let the gaze that sees you clearly speak louder, one more day, than the voice that keeps asking if you're enough. And if someone you know is disappearing inside their own questions, send this. No explanation. Just, someone at a well was seen completely. So were you. Here. You are not what your worst question says you are. You are what he saw when he looked at you before you learned to doubt yourself. And what he saw he chose. Without hesitation. He still does.